That's okay.
We've been working.
So let me announce our meeting. So let's see.
Okay.
Here we are. Welcome to Mixed Bag at Belmont Village Story Swap on February 20, 2023, President's Day. So let us begin forth with Ed Lewis.
Okay, let me get my phone
Linda.
going because I've got to get this under 7 minutes.
Linda, make me a co-host.
Okay. All right. Before I begin this true personal story, I want you all to remember that all my questionable teenage behavior was not my fault. Back in 8th grade, I was sitting on top of the world with all of my greaser buddies in the small middle-class town of Tacoma, Washington. I was popular, had a 3.5 grade point average, and I was preparing to try out for the New York Yankees. I sported the coolest DA, and in case you don't know what that is, it's called the duck's ass hairstyle. And we would, us boys with straight hair, would take a little dabble do you of Brill Cream, and we'd sing that song. Brill Cream, a little dabble do you, use more only if you dare. It was like our idols, James Dean and Elvis Presley, where we put that Brill Cream in, comb it to the back into the duck's ass. We were cool, and everything was going perfectly. I was going into 9th grade, and then my father ruined my life forever. He moved us to Seattle, about 40 miles away, into Ivy League hell, where the boys had crew cuts. They wore cardigans, and the girls wore these starched white blouses with plaid skirts that went over their knobby knees, and the worst invention in shoe history, saddle shoes. Oh my God, couldn't believe it. But I was a clever 9th grader, and I had devised a plan to get back to greaser heaven in Tacoma. It was 3rd period, Mr. Moffat, the math teacher. I walked up in the class with my leather jacket over my shoulder, my white t-shirt hanging out with Camel cigarettes rolled up in the sleeves. And I said, hey, Mr. Moffat, you're an effing asshole. And all these punk Ivy Leaguers are also effing assholes. And I got exactly what I wanted. I got suspended. And now, with my 9th grade logic, we were going to move back to Tacoma with all my greaser buddies. Well, to my surprise and utter dismay, that didn't happen. But my teenage vengeance was swift. I got kicked out of the high school marching band for being drunk at a football game. I took all my homework and torched most of it, and ending up with a 1.2 grade point average by the time I was in my senior year. But best of all, I joined a motorcycle gang in 11th grade, and it was led by the coolest greaser ever, Elvin Dick. He wore the leathers, the obligatory cigarettes rolled up in his sleeve, and he had black shiny boots that any proud greaser could comb their DA into. And he had an FLH, Harley Davidson motorcycle with a little sidecar, and it was black, nice and shiny. And I was vice president, so I got to ride the sidecar. And every Saturday night, we would head down to the famous Pike Place Market and look for some Ivy Leaguers to rumble. Now, the problem was we'd never really been in a fight, and there weren't really any other Ivy League gangs, but we were going to be tough. So the other 8 guys in the gang hopped on the bus because none of them had a motorcycle, and I got to drive with Elvin, and we headed down to the bus depot. When we got to that bus depot, I had a plan to take the badge of honor as the toughest greaser in town. I said, let's split up, man. We'll go look for these Ivy Leaguers. We'll rumble with them. I ran into an alley. I punched myself 10 times in the lip till it was cut and blood was flowing out, and I smeared that blood all over the wall. I ran back to the gang and I said, hey man, 2 Ivy Leaguers jumped me in the alley, and I smashed their heads against the wall and they probably took off. Let's head down there. Maybe we can rumble with their gang. Of course, we headed down there and no one was there, but I showed them the blood that from one of those Ivy Leaguers that I took care of. I wore the badge of honor. I was the coolest greaser at that point. Now, as you can see, everything that happened, all my questionable teenage behavior, was not my fault. It was my parents' fault. So I've been wanting to do something. So, and I think it's about time, with all us storytellers all over the place, I'm going to form a gang of storytellers. We just need one of us with a motorcycle. Boys, you know, men cannot do the crew cut thing, got to do the DA. And I'm going to produce some grill cream and, you know, get a new company going. And the girls, women, you cannot wear saddle shoes out. So if any of you want to join me and being cool or being cool for the first time, just email me at ed-greaser@da.com. Thank you. Oh, I made it to 6 minutes. Wow. Nice.
Oh, I love the way you changed it. It's much better now.
Yeah, well, we've been working for 5 weeks, and our 6th week will be tomorrow night with a comedian. His name is Jack Gallagher. He's an amazing comedian on Johnny Carson and Jay Leno and all throughout Sacramento. Does these one-person shows. He does stand up, but he also does long shows with stories that are just hilarious. So 7 of us have worked with him for the week, or for 6 weeks, and we're at our Oddfellows Lodge. And now we're gonna, on next Tuesday, we put on a performance, and our stories are supposed to be 5 or 6 minutes long.
Good job.
Yeah, so I've practiced this a few times. I think Beverly's heard it once or twice, and you know, I've tightened it out. I've learned a lot from him. And so I hope that goes over well.
If you could stay around for mine, I've also tried to shorten mine.
I can't because my
okay.
roommates, it's too loud. This little time is okay.
Ed,
I have to go.
question.
Yeah.
I'm an audience member. After you've been in the alley on your own, punched yourself a bunch of times and got some blood going and made it look like you'd been beaten up, and then you went back to your buddies and they asked you a question. I couldn't understand what you said, or what if I couldn't understand it, I didn't understand what it meant.
Oh, okay. So I ran back to my buddies and I said, 2 Ivy Leaguers jumped me in the alley. Or they jumped me and I smashed their heads against the wall and they probably took off. But let's go back and maybe we can rumble with them. Maybe they'll be there still. Something like that is what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I loved it. My gosh.
It's been a fun story. I've told a few times now.
Ed, again, saddle shoes. I can't remember your beef with that. Is it aesthetics? Stupid word for saddle shoes.
They were just the ugliest shoe, and Ivy League girls wore them. So you know.
You don't even appreciate that our mothers made us wash them, polish them.
Of course.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, they were ugly.
So anyway, for us greasers, the saddle shoes were just the ugliest shoe ever. Of course, the plaid skirts, and you know, us the biker girlfriends, they wore leather. You know.
Oh yeah.
Ed, if only you knew, if you're a female who has bone trouble in her feet, I've been known to pine for the saddle shoes.
I'll bet.
My whole teenage years, because once I didn't have to wear saddle shoes, I started wearing any shoes, and then I started wearing high heel shoes, and you know, some of us got into trouble on our own behalf.
Well, when you join the gang, you can wear your saddle shoes elsewhere.
I love it.
Okay, you guys. I'm sorry, I have to go.
Thanks very much, Ed.
All
Thank
right.
you, Ed. It was.
Thanks for letting me tell.
I really see the improvements. You did a great job.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye, Ed.
So, hi, Marion. You're waving. Does that mean you're leaving? Oh, oh, you were saying goodbye to Ed. Okay, moving on along. Do you think, Beverly, you would like to tell your story now?
Yes, please. I'd appreciate
And
it.
I'm recording you and I am putting you on Spotlight.
Yes, I'd appreciate it.
Okay,
Okay.
Beverly Schwartz is coming up.
The name of my story today is There's Always Room for One More. Okay, okay. I looked at a picture in the Institute of History and Art archives, and one of the pictures looks so familiar. I've seen that picture somewhere. And I looked and I said, I bet I know where it is. And I looked into the family history box of my mother and father. And in that box were 4 other pictures from 1923 showing what downtown Albany looked like. And I looked at all the different people in different clothes and wagons and horses and Charlie, the Raleigh, cars coming down and the people selling their goods and going in and out of stores. And I said, picture tells 1,000 words. And I had been asked to go into the archives of the History of Institute and Art and find a picture, and as a storyteller, write a story about it. I never thought I would get the story that I'm now about to tell you. My grandparents both lived in Eastern Europe, one in border of Ukraine and Russia, and one in Poland. And then my grandfather was a tailor, and my grandmother was a seamstress. And they both immigrated to Ellis Island. Now, I found out that there was an association in New York City called Hebrew Tailors Association. And they would help all the tailors and seamstresses that came from Eastern Europe that went through Ellis Island. And they got them transportation by rail all the ways up on different cities till they reached Albany. And the people up and down the river would tell the people, we have a job here for you. And they would discuss it. And people would either take it or keep going up to Albany. My grandparents both ended up in Albany, New York. And they met in Albany and fell in love the first year that they were here. And the Hebrew Tailors Association helped them get a building. And on the basement, which was a walk down basement, they started their tailor shop. And it was Meyer Tailor Shop, Meyer Shears Tailor Shop. And it became a center of downtown Albany's business section. It was Broadway was the name of the main street, and they were perpendicular to the street. And most people going up to the town to Albany where people lived in the residential area would always have to pass his store to get on the trolley going up. Well, they had 2 signs in this store. Sorry, no trust. Not responsible for anything left after 30 days. So if people didn't come back for whatever reason they had to pick up their stuff, he would take all the clothes and put it in the very back of this basement store where they were hid by curtains and a little table behind there where my grandparents would eat their meals. And they had another sign. And he would just stand in front of it and say, look at my sign. Sorry, no trust. I don't trust you. No money, no clothes, even if you come. Well, a lot of people would visit my grandfather's store when I was 3, 4 years old. My parents by then had moved into a 2-family house where my grandparents had moved on the 1st floor. My parents lived on the 2nd floor, and they would take the bus up and down to their little shop, and they were renting the place upstairs for apartments. And my mother would drop me off almost every day because she was a working mother, believe it or not, in those days in the early 50s. Well, I got a lesson in life in that store. First, people would always come in and my grandfather and grandmother would say, what country are you from? Because in those days, people were still immigrating through Ellis Island and up to Albany. And they would tell, oh, Italy, or they'd be from India. And they were dressed in all different beautiful clothes I had never seen before. And I got to talk to these people, and they would tell me about where they came from and what they ate and all the different little customs. And my grandfather put the word out in that little community. If you need clothes, I have free clothes to give to for immigrants coming into America. And I'd be glad to help you out, get some nice clothes for interviews for jobs or just for everyday living. And the people would come in sometimes a little quiet and say, I hear you have some clothes to give away. Oh, yes, yes. What country are you from? And my grandmother would go over and say, come, I will help you in the back room and give you some clothes. And they'd go back and they'd come back out that curtain, smiling, holding some hangers and hangers of clothes that fit them and a bag of food. And I'd say, Grandma, why are you also giving them a bag of food? And she'd say, well, these people don't have a lot of money when you first come. People helped us by giving us bags of food for our dinners when we first came. And that really helped us. So we're now returning the favor and trying to give them some food and some clothes to establish themselves in Albany. And when I would go home sometime in the two-family house, a lot of times I'd love to just eat dinner at my grandparents' house. And I'd run down the stairs, and around their table, there was always some one or two people from their store and dressed in their clothes from their countries. And I would say, Grandma, now, why are you inviting them to our house for dinner? And she said, well, they're starting to get used to America. And they like to talk English and learn English. And it's a way of communicating with people in English. But the real reason, Bev, is there's always room for one more around the kitchen table. Oh, okay, I understand, Grandma. Now, in the store, there was a potbelly stove, and people would sit around it, especially on cold days. But it was like a little city within a city because everyone would always come to Myers Shearer's tailor shop. Now, when I would be at my parents moved to Latham about a few years later, and off I went. So I didn't really have any more experiences at the store. But when I would come home sometimes, my mother would have people that I wouldn't know and strange looking clothes again and barely speaking English. And I say, Mom, where did you meet these people? Why are you inviting people here we don't know? Well, and she had the same words that my grandmother said, Bev, these people are new immigrants. We welcome them to our country because we were also, your grandparents were immigrants as well, and people helped them. There's always room for one more around the table. I'm carrying on the family tradition. Well, this past Christmas, as an example, I'm Jewish. I don't celebrate Christmas, but I had about 8-9 people that I found that were orphans that had no place to go for Christmas. And I invited them and I said, if you know other people, bring them along. And they had. And I had a wonderful Christmas dinner for them. And we all toasted to our countries we came from. We talked about where we came from, our ancestors. And we had a grand time finding out about who came where and when. And same tradition in my home, there's always room for one more. Thank you. And this story is going to be put on the Institute of History and Art YouTube channel. And the project was trying to get people to see what's in the museum. But to me, it gave me a story I never expected to have.
Oh,
I love
Beverly,
that story, Bev.
so do I. I'm so glad you love that story. I love hearing that story.
Yeah, I've heard you tell it before, but I really enjoyed it again.
I cut it down. I'm trying to shorten it because most people's attention spans are like between 8 and 10. If you go over 10, 11, you're in trouble, I think. I even sometimes lose it when people go too long, you know?
I wasn't I was a little impatient when I didn't know if your grandparents were still strangers to each other until they got into Albany and for several days, perhaps. But I waited. I waited patiently.
They met in
FYI.
Albany. Yeah.
And I'm not asking you a question. I'm telling you how I was responding. I was having to exercise a lot of patience to
Oh,
find out when they meet or have they met already.
okay.
I'll let you work that out.
Thank you.
And my comment is when you first bring up Albany, not everybody in our audience necessarily is acquainted, and say New York.
Okay, you're right.
We have in California and in other states, there's Albany's.
Oh, really?
Yes.
In fact, Belmont Village, um, who technically and officially hosts our mixed bag swap, is in Albany, California. But
Oh my God. Wow.
I'm proud that Marion raised the flag. Sometimes Albany, New York came many years before Albany, California. But Marion's right. So now you know.
Excellent.
So Linda too, if she should tell a story and say, just kind of say Albany, she also should say Albany, California. And I too, I'm from Antioch, but I think there's 7 Antiochs in the United States.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm surprised there aren't more.
And one of the parts I did leave out is they would take me down Broadway in the hustle and bustle, and you'd smell the bread and being baked for the people that night. And they would carry their burlap bag with their live chickens to the butcher, and I left all that out because, that's what I cut out. I got to the point of the story, but I remember I've told my chicken story right here, where I go and watch a chicken get ready for dinner. I
In
think,
general, it's familiar. It's not in specifics. It isn't.
yeah. So I figure I'd leave that for that story, but it's amazing. I found they had 2 pictures at the Institute of History and Art, and I had the other 4. It was a set of 6 pictures. So I'm going to go down and donate those pictures to their archives. So it's amazing, like what it led me to. And I did a workshop for Gail Herman for teaching teachers that are storytellers. And I said, I wish I could have had that type of technology of not being able to physically take your class to a museum, but go and see what's in the museum through their, technology, whatever you would call it, online. And the kids, I said, could actually, create their own stories. They could be make believe, or they could be real or historic or whatever, and then present it by taking some more pictures of whatever, and make a picture story with storytelling. And then they could present it to parents and on YouTube, so that at, let's say, parent teacher night, then in their report cards, all the parents are sitting outside and gossiping and this and that. Well, I would put out the computer so everyone who could come could see their child and other children who had created stories just in the regular classroom to hear them. But you could do that today with today's technology and have them videotaped so that, parents can see that. And you can, I also, what I did with their stories when I taught is I had sent around to all the teachers and I said, who would like to have a child come and tell a story? And I had times, and they would sign up so that every child in my room had an opportunity to go to a classroom, public speaking, and talk about and answer questions on their stories. So I did a workshop on that for them on Saturday and last Friday.
You want to try screen share right now,
Oh, I would love it.
Linda?
Okay.
So
Okay. I have to open up iMovie. Let's try it.
I don't know. I put share screen, and I think it's sharing mine.
Okay.
Let's see. Optimize.
Okay. Let me okay, this is it. Now I'm gonna go
I don't
to
know if it's letting you do it.
I don't know yet. I have to find your share. Okay. Okay, my movie is open now. I shut off shared screen. I'm trying to look, oh, I know where it is. It's below down here. Shared screen. I wonder if this is the movie. Let's see. Gail figured it out. iMovie.
I don't think I have it. I think I have it only on mine. I don't know how to transfer it to you.
You have it online?
No, I don't.
Let me just see. I'm
So-
gonna start playing it just to see.
Okay, well, we'll need to play later.
Okay, fine, no
Yeah,
problem.
we need to move on
I
our,
will have it ready.
recording.
I'm going to, I don't want to do this. I'm going to call Apple and get the directions to teach people to do this in the future. Gail
Okay.
figured it out. It's a very simple thing, but it's not worth doing it now.
okay. So Linda,
It's
be
something,
on.
more and more people are doing things. There's a girl named Nina in Rhode Island who does Kanashi or something like that. And it's pictures and talking at the same time, you know. And they do a lot of storytellers are doing that now.
Kanachi?
Like a few seconds picture, and then you say something, a few seconds picture, you say something, things like that. I've never done it before. That's the next thing I want to try.
Cool.
Yeah. Nina, her name is, she's very well known on the East Coast.
Hmm. So, as I recall, Diamond had a story to tell without being recorded or without video on. Are you there, Diamond?
So if you'll stop it, do you have another recordable person?
I don't
If
think
not,
Sandy's planning to tell, and I don't have a story that I'm planning to tell.
okay, then nicely tell our recording, our video people, thank you for coming.
Are we done?
No, only the recording portion.
Oh, okay.
We're going to conclude
All
our
right,
recording portion.
thank you, Marion. Thank you very much for coming to our mixed bag tonight, to March 2023.
Oh, tell them the next one is in 1 month.
Too late.